I am Liz Donatelli. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance, the #1 romance novel talk show on YouTube. In today's episode, I chatted with New York Times and USA Today bestselling romance author Roni Loren about her contemporary romance, Yes and I Love You, which is set in the world of New Orleans improv comedy. Roni also talked about her New Kids on the Block fan fiction, and she answered fun job interview questions. Enjoy, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hi, Roni. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance.
Thanks for having me. Hello.
It is a pleasure. It is a pleasure. Congrats on the release of Yes and I Love You.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Now, the novel has received a starred review from Publishers Weekly. How does that feel?
I mean, it always feels great to have good reviews and positive feedback, and because you kind of write in, your cave and you don't know what people are going to think. And this is a little different from what I've done before. So it's a little more kind of, it's contemporary romance, but kind of leaning and winking at women's fiction, whereas I started an erotic romance. So every time I start something a little different, it's like, okay, how's that going to go? So it's good to hear positive stuff.
Right.
It's about Holland, who is an entertainment reporter, and she's got extreme social anxiety. So all of her entertainment reporting is done online. She kind of lives behind this persona, so nobody knows who she is. She has Tourette's, so it's that's what's created her social anxiety. And her hero is an improv actor, because of course he is, right? So it's the scariest thing for social anxiety would be doing improv. So the story is him kind of helping her with that, and she's got some things she can help him with.
Yes and I Love You is book 1 in the Say Everything series. Is that inspired by the 1989 John Cusack movie Say Anything?
Of course it is, yes. I'm a child of the 80s, so for sure, yeah.
How did that come together? I love when those creative moments just pop up.
Well, naming a series is really hard. So usually what we do is I send a big old list to my editor, and I'm like, here are all my ideas for it. And so I'll look at song titles and movies I like and all of these things and kind of play around with them. And then Say Everything made sense to me because the stories all have the common line of they're all hiding something that they need to say and get out. So I figured that was a good kind of through line. Plus she is doing entertainment reviews, and I do reference some movies like Pretty in Pink and things in the book. So I figured it kind of all worked together.
Awesome. I love it. Now, what compelled you to write a romance that specifically features a heroine with Tourette's syndrome and social anxiety and a hero with ADHD?
Well, part of it is I had never seen it before in a book, and my son actually has Tourette's, so it's personal to me. And I think there's an image out there that Tourette's is this one thing, people saying weird words, and she does not have that version. So, with my son, it's the same thing. It's, little facial tics or clearing of throat, and people don't realize, I think, that is also Tourette's. So I wanted to kind of explore that and put it in a romance novel and not make it so scary and odd and different that people kind of think of as this other thing. And then ADHD, I have a husband who has that. So I'm very familiar with that too. And I think many people now that diagnosing is getting more widespread, people are understanding what the symptoms are. So I wanted a hero who could kind of relate to her in the sense of he also had challenges and things that he had to work through, and that sort of brought them together. But yeah, that's really just a way to put it in a book that I hadn't seen it, and I wanted to have other people be seen, and see themselves in it. And yeah, so. I think this goes back to my educational background. I have a master's degree in social work. I was a therapist before I was a writer. So I feel like, I've worked with people who have lots of different things going on. I've, gone through school for all of that. So I still check myself, I still look back in my book sometimes or look up symptoms and make sure things, I'm getting it right. Because, I can forget. I'm in my 40s. I forget things all the time.
I am too, Roni.
Yeah, so I definitely and make a point to portray it as best I can, as authentically as I can, because when I see that not portrayed right in books, it really irritates me. So I don't want to be that person doing that to someone else of like, this is not how it is, you know? So I had originally planned, you know, to maybe go see some improv shows and things like that to do some research, but we're going nowhere. So I did read a lot of improv books, you know, kind of Second City has a book out there, and I can't remember the other names, but I read about 3 books of improv. And I am very shy. So just the thought of like doing those games and stuff would terrify me, but it was fun to like read through it and think, you know, be able to write the scenes and kind of in my mind do those things without actually having to do them in person. So yeah, I really had planned to go see some improv, but I'll have to save it for when we're all vaccinated.
Yes. Who would star in the movie adaptation of Yes and I Love You?
This is always hard for me. I can say that for Holland, I kind of pictured the actress who plays Felicity. So going back to your 2000s and aughts, yes. So with the, you know, curly hair and kind of, you know, just young and cute. So I was binge watching Felicity while I was writing that. So, that's where it came from. And then Jasper, I didn't have a hero, like an actor in my head. I just picture him with his glasses and his dark hair. And I have like a model picture that I used, but I didn't have a particular actor who I would cast.
Yeah, I would love to see this as a movie. I would love that.
So book 2 is done. It's Andy's story. So she's the horror writer. So her story will come out in July, and she was so much fun to write because she's very, you know, like she sees romance movies as their own kind of horror show. Like she explains why she loves horror movies so much. And so she's a lot of fun. And I have a grumpy hero for that one. So it's very different from Jasper. I got to write kind of the recluse, grumpy hero for her, which was fun. And he cooks. So we have a chef kind of vibe going through that.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, what I'm actually writing right now is the 3rd book, which will be about Eliza, who is the therapist I work around. That she shows up briefly, I think, in Yes and I Love You. She has a little bit more of a part in the 2nd book. So that will be her story.
Yeah. And is Say Everything set to be a 3-book series?
Yes, as of right now, that's what we're doing. Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice. Well, I am super excited.
You know, it's funny, no one's ever asked me this question. I grew up, which actually I channeled in the 2nd book that I was just talking about. I grew up reading horror. So I was like the Stephen King girl and everything. Now I did have my Babysitter's Club, you know, I had the whole collection of those. But I really didn't start reading romance until I'd gotten through college and I was kind of doing all the college-y stuff. And then I wanted to pick up books that were fun. You know, I was taking all the English classes with the boring books. So yeah, I wanted something fun. But if I think about like the first story, it was probably YA romance would be something that, you know, was popular at the time or whatever. But whenever I discovered it, you know, I didn't go back.
So being you liked dark, like horror, you know, did you happen to read the Gothic epic series, Flowers in the Attic by V.C. Andrews?
Yes. Okay. Actually, if you look on my shelves behind me over here, Flowers in the Attic is up there because it was one of the first books that I read that I was like, wanted to be a writer, you know, like that was the book.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. I had a feeling that might have been in your wheelhouse. And I will consider that a romance.
Very dark, but yes.
Yeah. What have been some comments that your mom has given you or even feedback about your erotic romance?
Well, I'm an only child, so I'm kind of like, can't do any wrong in her eyes, which is wonderful. But so my mom is great. She teaches Zumba. She's in her 60s and teaching Zumba every day and all of that. But so she will hand out my books at her Zumba class to anyone who wants to read it. So she's like not ashamed at all. So she reads the books. She loves my books, and she's been completely 100% supportive. As has my dad, but he will not read the books. He's not allowed to.
Okay, I can understand that. Does your mom purchase a bunch of books and then hand them out to people, or does she sell it to them in Zumba class?
Oh, she doesn't sell it. She'll give it to them. She'll buy it herself.
That is awesome. I love that. Now, for readers who'd be interested in also checking out your erotic romance, is there a good book to start with to be introduced to your particular brand of erotic romance?
Well, my debut novel was Crash Into You. So that's BDSM erotic romance. So if that's your jam, that's a 9-book series. It's got lots of novellas and things in between too. My other series starts with Off the Clock, which is erotic romance without the BDSM. So whatever your preference, but yeah, that one only has 2 books in it. So if you're looking for something long and, like to dive into a series, Crash Into You is the first one.
I really was asking for me because I wanted to, because I was overwhelmed on your website. I'm like, I don't know. I'll ask Roni, what should I start with? Well then, noted, Roni, noted. We finish the interview and you step outside the office and find a lottery ticket that ends up winning $10 million. What would you do, Roni?
What would I do? Well, I wouldn't take whatever job I was interviewing for. So, I've hit the point in my life, I think, that I'm doing the job I want to do, and I love what I do, and I love where I live. So the money wouldn't change, I think, my day-to-day thing, but I would definitely, pay for kids' college and all of that boring stuff that you would do with money. But yeah, I think I've gotten to the point where I am where I am, and I'm happy to be there. So I don't know if money would change that dramatically.
Okay, good answer. What do you think about when you're alone in your car?
Usually I'm listening to a podcast. So I'm thinking about true crime because that's what I'm listening to on a podcast. But if I'm in the middle of writing a book like I am now, a lot of times I'll be silent. So I'll just have scenes running through my head of what I'm trying to write right now and figuring out where they're going to go and let the characters talk. So it's either quiet for that or it's listening to something fun on a podcast.
Okay. What were you like in high school?
I was the nerd. I was the salutatorian, straight A, kind of quiet girl. I did go to Catholic school too, New Orleans, big Catholic school town. So yeah, I had the small group of friends. I'm not super dissimilar from Holland in the sense of like socially, like I had my little group. I didn't want, I'm not very extroverted, but I was reading a lot. I wrote a book in high school, so it was New Kids on the Block fan fiction. So that was my first romance novel. It still exists in a box somewhere, but yeah.
I need to read that. I was a huge, ridiculous, crazy New Kids on the Block fan, and I need to read this.
You really don't need to. I'm sure it's really, really bad, but yeah, that was, I didn't have a boyfriend in high school. That was my boyfriend. I was going to write my romance novel. And so, yeah, there was a love triangle with Jordan and Joe and all, yeah.
Well, I was just going to ask, who was your favorite?
Joe. I was a Joe girl.
You were good because I was a Jordan girl. So
you could have me.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, if you ever decide to take it out of that box, I would read it. No judgments. Okay, Roni, you've been given an elephant. You can't give it away or sell it. What would you do with the elephant?
I would definitely keep an elephant as a pet. I would have to find a place. I'd take that $10 million that I won from the lottery so I could build a place to put the elephant.
Perfect. What part of the human face is your favorite?
I like eyes. That is a weird question for a job, but yeah.
Once you ask about the human face, I go to that dark place of horror, like you want to take off someone's skin and wear it. So I'd be like, yeah, I don't know. Leave me alone.
See, you'll like my heroine in the next book. If you have that thought, you're going to get along with her.
Well, Roni, this has been a delight. I'm so glad to have gotten a chance to know you better. And I'm certainly enjoying your work and can't wait to continue reading. So thank you again for joining me on Reader Seeks Romance.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.